Yo, what's up, guys? This is Rose here, and if you're some of the lucky few to be hearing this, this will be my first recording of the new year. Uh, at the time of recording this, I believe it is January 2nd, so whenever you hear this, Happy New Year. I hope that you have a great year. I hope that your last year ended off well, and I hope that this year coming in brings you a lot of good things to come. Hopefully this year for me, one of my goals was to record more videos, so this is the start of that. So hopefully I can keep that up. But yeah, a lot of stuff has happened from the last time I recorded to now, and I'm going to try to highlight and cover some of the stuff that uh, sort of caught my eye during like the end of last year and the news that we're going to be getting heading into the next year. So if you guys want to stick around and listen to me sort of ramble, you're more than welcome. And yeah, let us just dive right into it. I'm not the best at introductions at all. I've actually recorded this intro like 8 times. So, first thing that I do want to cover is the MCU, starting from January all the way up until December of the year that just passed. The MCU was on a complete tear, starting with WandaVision and ending with No Way Home. Uh, WandaVision was my absolute favorite series from the last year. It was my favorite television show of last year. I actually made a video on Wanda, so if you haven't already, go check that out. I sort of break down the whole thing with Wanda and that show, and I kind of just give my opinion on that. So if you want, please go check that out. But yeah, the MCU was very, very good this year. They were on a tear. There were only a couple shows that I really didn't enjoy from the MCU, and that was I thought the Falcon and the Winter Soldier was pretty bland. I really wasn't a big fan of Black Widow, as well as Hawkeye. Hawkeye to me was garbage. I I barely could even watch Hawkeye. But that's just the bad. Those it was three things out of the MCU that I personally didn't like, but the rest definitely were enough for me to say that the MCU, Marvel, whatever you want to say, they definitely carried 2021. And I think I have a tier list. I hope that I still have it on me at the time of me recording this. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, I'm gonna talk about some of my favorite some of my favorite Marvel series. WandaVision for me was S tier. I loved it to death. WandaVision, like the S tier category, I put WandaVision and Spider-Man No Way Home. Now those two are interchangeable. That doesn't mean that I think WandaVision is better than Spider-Man No Way Home. Uh, it just means that in terms of quality, those two to me were the best. That was the best that the MCU put out this year. Next up, I believe I had. See, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go find my tier list. Hold up, give me 1 second. Okay, perfect. I found it. WandaVision, I had S tier along with No Way Home. For A, I had The Eternals, Marvel's What If, and Loki. For B tier, I believe I had Shang-Chi. For C tier, I had The Falcon and Winter Soldier. And for trash, I had Hawkeye. Referring to Hawkeye as trash, I feel kind of mean. I feel kind of mean about it because Jeremy Renner and all those guys, I know that they put in a lot of time and effort into making that series, and I do know that it will be relevant in the MCU later on. But god dang it, was that show boring? Oh my god! Like, you want to talk about putting somebody to sleep? I was done. Like, Hawkeye was just so boring. But I really don't want to focus on the negative because I already want to focus on the positive. And that was, I think, the top five in my tier list, which was WandaVision, No Way Home, Eternals, What If, and Loki. All of those shows, movies, etc., they hit the knot for me. WandaVision covered one of my favorite Marvel characters, and they did her, I guess, character dissection incredibly well. No Way Home is the ultimate culmination of every Spider-Man fan. Whether you watch the original trilogy, whether you're an Andrew Garfield fan now, because they're everywhere now if you're on Twitter. Willem Dafoe, everyone loves Willem Dafoe. Like, it was just like there's nothing more I can really say about No Way Home that hasn't already been said. It was near perfect movie. The Eternals for me, that's probably the most controversial thing that I had because a lot of people didn't like it. It was actually the worst rated MCU movie I think ever. I don't. People said that it wasn't like the typical Marvel formula. But people also say that they don't like. Well, when I say people, I mean critics. Critics were saying that it didn't feel Marvel. It felt like slow pace, and I'm like, they're the same people that complain about the Marvel formula. So you can't flip flop. I personally enjoy the Eternals because I love the lore, and Marvel has this theme where uh, everything is happening in the background. You're just not aware of it. You're just not aware of it yet. And the Eternals perfectly culminates that. What If does that very well because they just cover multiple universes and they're sort of opening up the multiverse thing, and that wasn't going to be possible without Loki and the time variance and Kang and all of that. Like it just hit everything on the nose. Like those five series were perfect because they also tie in together in a sense, and that's why I love Marvel. There's an overarching story going on, and I just loved it. The MCU really made 2021 worthwhile for me, and I can't say enough about it, but I will. Okay, so next up in B tier, I had Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Uh, in my opinion, out of the three movies that came out from like October, November, and December, which were Shang-Chi, The Eternals, and No Way Home, I had Shang-Chi as the worst, I'm using air quotes here, a movie that came out of the three. Not because it was a bad movie, but because I don't know. Shang-Chi just I didn't vibe with the story. Essentially, like the visuals, the hand to hand fighting, the choreography, all of that was excellent. I loved all of that. But I just didn't resonate. I just didn't like I didn't like Shang-Chi as a main character. Uh, this the antagonist really wasn't all too interesting. Um, I'm positive that Shang-Chi will play a bigger role, but I just felt like as for an origin story, it was one of the weaker origin story in terms of the plot. We don't want to get too deep into it because this is just my opinion, and I could really care less whether people agree with me or disagree with me. But I don't know, like it just didn't resonate with me at all. Like it wasn't a bad movie. It was the best hand to hand combat movie that Marvel has ever came out with. Like Marvel Marvel did their thing, and I see why I was so hyped up. But it just wasn't. It was just okay. It was just okay to me. That's why it's in B tier. Uh, it was ways better than the. Excuse me, I'm not taking that out. It was ways better than the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Hawkeye, and those two things really, I think, I'm starting to notice a trend with these sort of things. The things that I have rated in like low tiers, I guess. One thing that they have in common is that the lack of an antagonist. Uh, Loki, the antagonist. Well, Loki was the antagonist. What if the antagonist was like Super Ultra, Mega Ultron with the Infinity Gauntlet? In the Eternals, the Deviants really weren't that much of antagonists, but the introduction of like the lore and the Celestials and all of that, like that was a huge thing. And the fact that happened that Celestial was sort of like an antagonist, or who the antagonist really was the entire time, Icarus. Like it was just multiple layers, and I love that. Falcon and the Winter Soldier didn't have that. I didn't care too much for the Flag Smashers. Uh, they were boring. Uh, Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson. I felt like I would have liked it better if it was more like character driven. Like I know it says the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I don't. I just really wish they would have focused more on like the mental aspect of Bucky and Sam more than like this side plot with the Flag Smashers. The false Captain America thing was pretty cool. I really don't know where that's gonna go, but only time will tell. But yeah, and Hawkeye, I just don't like Hawkeye. I'm not a fan of Hawkeye. I don't think it was directed well. I just don't. I just have nothing to say about Hawkeye. It was just bad in my opinion. Kingpin was very underwhelming. Uh, I'm not really a big fan of Kate Bishop. Hawkeye really was what was never my favorite Avenger. I just didn't like it particularly. Yeah, but that's all I'm really gonna say about Marvel this year. Marvel really hit on a lot of things, but when they did miss, it kind of did miss. But it's Marvel. I found some semblance of enjoyment in all these shows, so don't take it too much. Don't take it like too like literal. But yeah, Marvel carried 2021 definitely. And before I forget, Jesus, because I did not put this movie on my tier list because that's kind of how forgettable I believe it was. Black Widow. Uh, I'm gonna speak positive on Black Widow. The only positive thing that Black Widow gave us was Florence Pugh uh, as Yelena. That was it. They gave us Florence Pugh. Um, she was in Hawkeye, but I don't know. I really just think Hawkeye just brought the worst out of everybody. I truly believe that. But yeah, Black Widow, I think it was Florence Pugh. If I were to rank it, I would put it like in the same tier as the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think that would be D tier. Yeah, it's definitely not as good as Shang-Chi, but it's not worse than Hawkeye or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But yeah, positives, Florence Pugh. Negatives, I really don't care too much for Black Widow because she's dead. It's that simple. But yeah, if you guys made it to the end of this video, and if you haven't already, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. It's entirely up to you. I cannot force you to do anything. But yeah, it will be greatly appreciated. I'm going to try to get these videos out weekly. I'll try to find a topic or a series of topics, and I will talk about them in the video weekly. So for this week, I'm going to be covering the MCU. Next week, who knows? If I still have that fire in me, I'll probably talk about what Warner Brothers is doing to Zack Snyder and his whole thing, or Bleach, or whatever you guys want to hear me talk about. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. I'll probably put the link down in the description if you want to message me and do anything like that. But yeah, other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. And peace. Happy New Year's once again.